If you have a student loan or you're considering going to university, it's probably a good idea to know how much that's going to cost you. In fact, I can't think of another product that millions of us buy with absolutely no idea of the price. But that is exactly the situation that students and graduates all over the UK are finding themselves in right now. And I'm telling you, you're going to be shocked when you realize the salary range that will mean you repay more than everyone else. Because it's a system that's been very cleverly designed to take the most amount of money from a particular category of earner. So you might have heard in the news recently that the UK government, or specifically our student loan system, is coming under fire for guiding millions of students down an almost indefinite path of financial insecurity. And a lot of students are starting to believe that the terms of the agreement they entered into with the government was at best a little bit misleading, and at worst, an out and out scandal. And this has come to the forefront of the news cycle because Rachel Reeves took the decision to freeze the student loan repayment thresholds for 3 years to push more people into having to repay their loans sooner and faster. Basically, once again, it's just another form of fiscal drag, with the amount of money that you have to earn before repaying your loan stays the same, which is currently around £28,000, depending on what plan you're on. And therefore, as wages increase to keep up with inflation and the cost of living, more and more people are dragged into making those repayments, which means in real terms, people are actually worse off. On top of that, the loans attract interest at RPI or RPI plus 3% if you earn more than about £50,000. So now you've got Martin Lewis and others questioning the morality of changing the rules to punish those that will suffer the most. But this isn't a political channel, and I'm not about to turn it into one. I just want to help you answer two common questions. How much will my student loan actually cost me, which is something that everybody should be able to get an answer to, quite frankly. And number two is, does it ever make sense to pay it off in full, as Martin Lewis would say, earlier than you need to? You'd think those two questions should be pretty straightforward to answer, but they're actually not because it's based on variables that aren't particularly easy to predict. Essentially, you need to know roughly how much you're going to make each year for the 30 years after graduating, which is difficult, obviously. Then you're going to need to know what the interest rate is going to be each year, which, as I said earlier, is based on inflation. Again, difficult. And then finally, you need to know what the repayment thresholds will be, because you'll pay 9% of your gross pay above those thresholds, which is why some people consider it a graduate tax rather than a loan. So to try and simplify things, I'm going to show you what the total repayments would be for someone leaving university with 50k of student loan debt, which is the average right now, and a starting salary of 25, 50 and £75,000. And I've assumed that those earnings increase by about 4% a year to reflect promotions and a little bit of inflation. So here's the table of the workings, and you can see that someone starting on 25k doesn't start making any repayments until their 6th year. And even then, the repayment is less than 50 quid for the entire year. For the person starting on 50k, they'll pay almost £2,000 in their first year, but the amount that they owe still goes up at the end of the year because of the interest. It's not until someone's making around £70,000 that they're actually chipping away at the principal of the loan, which sounds insane. So what does all of this look like in terms of total costs over a 30-year career? This chart shows the cumulative payments, so where it flatlines is when the loan has been repaid, and if it's not repaid after 30 years, it's wiped clean anyway. The 25k earner repays about 38k over the 38 years and never clears the debt. The 75k earner repays the debt after 13 years, after having repaid almost £80,000 in total, whereas it takes our middle earner 26 years to repay the loan, and they end up being squeezed the most, with the loan costing them a ridiculous £120,000. In my opinion, this isn't a system that's fair, and quite frankly, it's not a system that works particularly well. I don't think people should be going to university, racking up 50k of debt, to only end up paying off 40 of it and leaving the rest of the population, some of who didn't even go to university, to pick up the slack. By the same token, I also don't think that those middle earners should be paying the most, especially when we're talking about an £80,000 difference between the two. I think it's a bit of a farce, to be honest, and I'm glad that it's starting to get the attention that it deserves. Oh, and in case it wasn't clear, to answer the second question as to whether it makes sense to pay down your loan early, there's no simple solution to that, because you've got the opportunity cost of not investing that money elsewhere and potentially generating a greater return. But if there's anyone who should be considering paying down their loan early, it's those people who are likely to earn between £50,000 and £60,000 in today's money for the majority of their career, because clearly they're the people that get stung the most in this system. That's all from me for now, so I'll see you in the next one.